drop any eviction proceedings prior to the date of application. So it is cleaning the slate at that point. The landlord can, go after the financial piece of the people who owe more money, but they can't evict for it. And that's on the side. That's not within this program. For the forward paying rent, we will recertify every 3 months. So even if people need that forward, we look at the whole picture every 3 months. They have to update their documentation. The file started in the system, so it's just an update of that certification. This piece of the puzzle, we are going to have people paying part of their income towards their rent, like subsidized housing does. We chose not to have the typical 30% of income paid towards rent for everyone. We've done a sliding scale because we realize it's even tougher for people who are lower, the more extreme lower incomes to be able to do that. But we also recognize that the moratorium has had some unintended consequences, and we have a lot of households who have not been paying anything. And so that doesn't show a partnership with the landlord. So 0 to 30% of the area median income, those households are not going to have to contribute anything towards their rent. 31 to 40% of the area median income, they will contribute 10% to their rent. 41 to 50% will contribute 20%. And then 51 to 80% will contribute the traditional 30%. At the 3-month recertification, this is going to come into play. So we'll need to document that the tenant upheld their end of the bargain, just like we'll have to make sure that the landlord did too. The utility assistance, we will pay $1,500 up to 6 months in arrearages for electric. And we chose to do electric after a lot of different discussions, but electricity is something every household uses. So that's where we came up with sticking to electricity for this program. We know there's other utilities, but it's not manageable to address that in this program. And we will look at that like at a different point of time, I guess. The timeline, funds need to be committed by September of this year, and they need to be allocated by December of this year.
John,
eligible, yeah.
Maybe you're going to address this on this slide, but we had a question in the chat box around undocumented individuals and whether they would be eligible.
And I have a feeling let's wait till the end, because I think it's pretty much, there's a lot of information, but hold the chat box for sure, just in case I don't touch it enough.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. So the eligible households are households that have been affected by COVID in one way, shape, or form, like I had mentioned before. They need to demonstrate a risk of homelessness or housing instability. So to me, being in the housing world for over 15 years, that housing instability is huge. So we know that it doesn't have to be the most vulnerable who will be able to apply. This is the families and individuals in the community that have never had to figure this out. And now that there's this financial crisis, they're late on their rent, they're late on their utilities, their housing is unstable now. So it's that criteria, I love that it's expanded to help a lot more people throughout the state. The household income. So we talk our language in the housing world, and we talk about AMI and HUD and everything like that. We actually have an interactive map on our website so that people can take the cursor and roll it over the town where they live, and it will give them a summary of what the 80% HUD AMI is for their household size. Some people, I think, aren't sure what we mean by household size. It is how many people are living underneath that one roof who are over 18 years old. So that's something that's been coming up too. So we'll help to educate the community about what that means. And it could very well be that people have never had to apply for subsidy, so they don't really know the language that we're using. So we prioritize people who are households that are below 50% of the area median income, or someone in their home has been unemployed for more than 90 days. And the way that we prioritize those households is that they get pushed up to the top of the underwriting in our system. So underwriting is through the priorities and then time and date stamped. I'll be honest, when files are not complete and they have to go back for more information, that just adds on time to that person's application. So that's kind of an unknown situation. And we're hoping that the kind of the rush of applications is more like people who really are desperate and need help, but it might not be that it's UniteCT. They might need more social service type of support. Again, the website is very comprehensive. Literally spend 15 minutes and just be on the website and read. And I think you'll be very happy with what you see there. So the exciting thing for the Connecticut is that there is an admin fee with UniteCT from the federal government. The TRAP program did not have an admin fee. And so everything was done by hand, and it was done by the staff of Department of Housing and CHFA. And it was super overwhelming. So the Yardi software system has been purchased to do the UniteCT program. It's really fantastic because it goes from pre-eligibility all the way to funding. It's a real comprehensive system. It will help us when we have to do audits. It will help us when we need to report what's happening and where it's happening and how much it's happening. So this system is an online portal. Anyone can access it through a cell phone or a computer. In addition, anyone can help someone else to do this application. The tenant and the landlord both participate in this process. They both have unique login and passwords to the Yardi system. By the way, the Yardi system is accessible through our website. That's where the link is to the portal. They register and they go in and they complete their piece of the application. The two parts come together and that creates a completed file that can be underwritten. Neither party sees what each other is stating for information. So I think that that's important for people to realize that the system is very secure and safe and information is not shared. The application, the landlord or the tenant, they can log back into the Yardi system at any time and they can get a status of where their file is. Everything is emailed from that system. So like when someone has a request for more information, it's right through the system to their email and they can email the documents or the explanation right back to the underwriter. So that's very easy as well. And of course, like in the public financing world, we appreciate that there's a nice trail of what's occurring. So that is also going to help us down the road when we are reporting on 25,000 households receiving money. In the Yardi system, there's a lot of support. So all of the narratives on each question are written so that if you read it, it's a very simple way of a question and an answer. People can actually do one page at a time if they want to, if it's too overwhelming for them. They can go to the website and look at what documents are acceptable documents to upload, have those documents with them, and then go into the portal. If they don't have the documents, they save what they've done and they can come back at another time. So it really is something that, depending on the bandwidth of someone, maybe they've got a lot going on, they can come back to their application and do more work at a later time. On each page of the Yardi system, there's a question mark in the upper right-hand corner, and that's the help desk. The help desk gives written tutorial and video tutorial on every single page of the application. The application for the tenant is, I think it's literally 3 pages. And for the landlord, it's 2 pages. Maybe it's 3. It's really very, very easy. It's what you would expect, right? People need to document who they are. They need to document their income. They need to document what they're payment situation is their lease. But with the lease, you know, a lot of people have verbal leases or they don't have the paper anymore or whatever. They can state the terms and then the landlord can provide the documentation, and those two things can be matched up and underwritten. So we're not requiring that the tenant have the lease and the rent roll, but they need to tell us those pieces, and then we can document it from what the landlord provides. So we do recognize that there are going to be barriers to technology out there. And I think that because the Yardi system is accessible by all and anywhere, we're really saying, like, look to your circle, look to your people who are around you and see where you can get help. In addition, we have housing counseling agencies that have been engaged throughout the state of Connecticut, and they will open they're opening their doors to people who need extra help with the technology. They don't own a computer or a scanner. They can take they'll go on, you know, they can take all of their documents, go in, they can use the scanner, they can use a computer, do their application there. It's not case management. It's really about doing the application for this money. So we have some housing counseling agencies who are also acting as our auditing underwriters. So they play different roles in this process. In addition, we have $1 million that has been committed to the Connecticut Legal Services Network. And across the state of Connecticut, all of the legal services are increasing their capacity to meet the needs of potential people who would qualify for UniteCT. And they're expanding their services so that they will be able to serve the up to HUD 80%, and they'll be able to serve people with advice in a much quicker or sooner point of their process, the legal process. So it can be just about diversion and prevention. It can be information about the notice to quit stage, and it can be about the eviction stage. There's fair warning that eviction stage, there might not be the right timing to help the people who are in that position. But the advice that the legal services will be able to provide to the consumers throughout Connecticut is expanded so that they can work those things out and decide if a relocation might be an option as well. That's something that we're supporting in this program. So people, if the situation just is incredibly volatile and it's not going to be resolved and it's not going to stabilize the housing, then we're saying, you know, if there's a different alternative in the community, someone can apply for a new place to live as long as they have the landlord on the other side, because remember, payments are going to the landlord and the landlord has to participate in the application process. But we are trying to meet many different more, you know, volatile type situations too, or I guess at risk, right? Households that are even more at risk. So this kind of goes to the immigration question. Surrey is the Connecticut Institute for Immigrants, Refugees and Immigrants. Surrey worked with the state of Connecticut during TRAP, and they had their own rental assistance program that was created for those households those immigrant households who cannot document their income and things like that. So we know that that's a part of the population that's in the state of Connecticut. They won't be able, or they are not going into a system that is federal money for different reasons. So there's a network of providers under Surrey who are being allocated $4 million in order to do the rental program that was successful during TRAP. So that's continuing. We also have a partnership with the workplace in Bridgeport. That's where our call center is for this program, the toll-free call center. I love that the workplace actually, they started up within a week. They're amazing. I'm so incredibly impressed with their commitment to this project. They hired 20 people and trained them. It's ongoing training. They've been working for just over a week, but they're really, really knocking it out of the park with support and help. Those 20 people who are working for the workplace, they were unemployed because of COVID situations. So that this money that's coming into Connecticut, that economic boost and support looks different, right? So we're going to be training 20 people in a skill that they did not have. And I was on the phone with 211 the other day, and they were like, oh, this could be really interesting, you know, for our call center. So after the program, you know, after it's not needed or whatever, because this is durational and who knows where money will come, and hopefully it keeps coming and we'll be set up for it. But that there's job training going on as a result of this $235 million is also really exciting to think about. And keeping the money in Connecticut is obviously a goal of ours. So in addition, there is a mobile technology bus. So to meet those barriers in technology, it's an 11 station bus that has it can go anywhere. So we're asking partners to sign up, and they can host that bus in their community and create an event locally. And the bus will be driven and available with the PPE and everything like that, so that if you have areas, churches, schools, town halls, there's a lot of different people who are signing up, businesses. And then also, if you want to create some kind of like a larger scale event where you partner like with your library or something like that, that has computers in their computer lab, and then you have the bus in the parking lot and the computer lab, and you have your volunteers, navigating through, you could probably get more people helped, because COVID, reduces the amount of people that we can have together, which is also why we chose to do this online portal, because COVID, it works, and people do not have to physically go anywhere outside of their comfort zones. So who can help with the applications? Anyone can help, because it is available through the cell phone or the computer. So first of all, we're encouraging landlords. Landlords they know the situation, they know their tenants. If their tenant needs extra support, uploading documents or whatever, they could probably help. The smartphone is the easiest tool to be able to complete this application, because you can do it from the smartphone through the internet, do it through the smartphone. And then when it comes time to uploading documents, you just take a picture and upload the documents. So there's no multiple step process. It's really user friendly. People who can help, anybody's family or friends, their neighbors, the schools, municipalities, churches, the libraries. The libraries are opening up throughout the state of Connecticut. We are creating an interactive map that will be on the website. And that map is to make sure that towns know within their community where there's public access to computers. So that map is being put together, and there's a link for our partners to complete. So after this meeting, I'll send a marketing kind of email, and it has a lot of the links and flyers and things like tools that you can use to communicate out to your local communities what's happening with this program. So the marketing and media, we are working, like the housing counseling agencies are really important in this mix. They're the local people who are networking with their other providers that are doing different work, making sure that they know about this tool to put in their toolbox. All of the materials, all the marketing materials are going to be, they are co-branded with those housing agencies, so that we keep that local flair, but we also connect back to the larger Department of Housing. We are being really strict about marketing, because we want to make sure that the branding stays intact. And also we want to ensure that there are no predatory things going on out there where somebody is setting up kind of the corner store and saying, for $50, I'll help you with your application. We have so many people in our community that will help neighbors to do this application. We do not want it to get misbranded and abused. On our social media, we do have a Facebook, a Twitter, and an Instagram account. We ask everybody to like those accounts, share those accounts, invite your friends to those accounts. That's where we will be communicating out what kind of numbers are happening, the success stories, if there's significant changes, to let people know what's happening with the program. Outreach and multimedia. So we are committed to doing all of our marketing in Spanish and Portuguese. There are special cases where people have requested unique languages, and actually the community members have somebody local that translates. And so we're just helping them with the structure. Like our marketing person, Marina, has been working with a couple of community groups on creating marketing that's specific in the language that they speak. On the website, Department of Housing website, there is the translator for different languages. And in the Yardi system, there's a translator as well. And it's always being improved on and built. So if there's languages that are common to your communities, you can let us know, and we'll work to do enhancements to get those upgraded. In addition, we have translation services in case we need to communicate back to households in their native language. Most of the documents that we would be looking at are in English. So the underwriting part is not, like, if the file is really complete, we probably are totally covered. But if we have to go back and forth for additional information, then we would need to engage with those translation organizations to help us. We're also engaging in working with the newspapers and radio stations and the cable TV stations. We have like so many different engagements happening right now in a lot of the minority TV and radio. So those ongoing efforts will continue so that we can try to spread the word. We always know that people say, I had no idea, or I didn't hear about that. So we're trying to make sure that the word is out. And everything that I share after this, all of the media marketing kind of things that I share, please share them with your networks as well. And if anyone has any groups that they would like to have a presentation to, let me know, because we really are trying to get far and wide through Connecticut. And we have 169 towns. So it is kind of like, you know, it's a needle in a haystack. So help us out with that too. So we do have the website, like I mentioned. We have the toll-free phone number, and we have the QR code for people who have smartphones. They can just click on that and go right into the application and the website. So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing that and then open it up for questions that might have been in the chat room.
Is there a person on the phone? Is there a person on the phone?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call you back
Yes.
in a second. I'm on a webinar.
Oh, sorry. So there's a bunch of questions, so I'll run through them, the ones that are already in the chat box, Dawn, if that's okay.
Sure.
The first had to do with undocumented individuals, and I think you maybe answered that already. The answer is yes, correct?
It depends, right? So it's if they can prove their story. So undocumented is like this word that means many things to many people. So if someone cannot prove their story, and that's what you mean by undocumented, that's when SURI would come into play. If someone can approve and go through, if someone can go through the application on UniteCT and they have the documents to back up their story, yes, they can go to UniteCT. I guess that's the simplest way to put it.
All right, great. Another question is,
Hi,
what
sorry.
if the applicant has
So
difficulty?
she is moving to Puerto Rico.
Whoops.
She's going to be in Puerto Rico.
Elizabeth, we can hear you.
I got it.
Elizabeth,
What
okay.
if the applicant has difficulty coming up with the necessary documentation?
That then they have to have support in that.
They have to have
It's
it.
required. It's required. It's a federal program. So
Yep.
I mean, like the documents are critical in this. Yes.
Yep. Next question. Can people apply for other resources to help pay their portion?
I'm not sure what that means.
This
Pay their
was
portion.
Rhiannon. I guess Rhiannon, if you want to unmute yourself, I think what this might mean is, let's say they're capped out at the amount of back rent that is paid to their
Right.
landlord, but they still have back rent owed. will participating in this program preclude them from applying for other resources?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So really, I guess might be a little bit of a layered question. People cannot overlap subsidy. So they cannot be receiving any other subsidy and UniteCT. Okay. If it was a gift from a church, whatever, then that's not the same. That's not what I'm talking about. But they cannot overlap any kind of subsidy. If they are getting help to pay their portion, that might also be like when you're talking about like the forward rent, when they have to commit to paying 10%, 20%, or 30%. I think that what we really want, I'm not saying no to that. I think what we really need to challenge ourselves with is thinking about housing stability and getting this partnership reestablished for those households that would be in that place that they would need support to pay their portion. So that's like, that crosses over to social services to me. And so I'm not saying no to that, but our goal is to create stability so that we're not having this discussion again in 6 months. So just, or a year, you know what I mean? So just, that's where I come from for that one.
So this is on a similar note. Do clients need to have a certain amount of income to prove they can afford maintaining housing going forward? Or do they only need to be below the determined HUD AMI?
They only have to be below the HUD AMI. Like, we are keeping this as low barrier as possible. I will be honest, like I question that, you know what I mean? There could be a revision on this because we are not underwriting to judge that sustainability in hopes that the economy can bounce back and people will engage in some of the job programs and something will go back to being more stable in their income. I'm concerned where I'm seeing files that are like in the homelessness sector, right? It's like the frequent flyers, the people that are continually coming back. There's going to be a cliff for them. And so what are we going to do? Because even if people receive TRAP and they had that support, if I'm looking at an application and I see TRAP and then I don't see any engagement after that, I don't see engagement before it, I don't see engagement after it, that makes me extremely concerned for the stability of that housing. So right now, we're not taking that on in this program. This program is a financial program, but I think that is a huge discussion that needs to be had by many people in the state of Connecticut. So it's a bigger one, I think, that will come, but we can't just keep kind of kicking the can, they say, and then have the cliff there anyways. So more to come, I think, on that. But right now it's just about the HUD AMI.
Gotcha. This question is, are instructions and applications available in multiple languages? And I think you said yes.
Yep. Yes.
Will we receive a copy of this PowerPoint?
Yes.
Send it around to us. Perfect. Can the money be used towards deposit on a new rental if an agreement cannot be met between the tenant and landlord?
Yes, it can. Absolutely. They're probably going to need a little bit more assistance with that, right? Because you need to get the new landlord on board without the guarantee of the money, because the file still has to be underwritten and approved. You know what I mean? So it's like a balancing act with that question, but it is possible for sure.
And then similarly, if it's in the best interest for the tenant to move, will the landlord be paid for the back rent and the tenant assisted with funds to move?
No, it's the funds are paid to the landlord that's engaged.
So I'll add a question then, which is, let's say the tenant has found a new place, owes back rent to the landlord. Can some of the funds be applied backwards to the old landlord and some applied forwards to the new landlord?
Those are two separate applications.
Okay.
So if somebody came through and they were going to ask for arrearages only in their current location, then they could do that. There's a feature where anybody asking for arrearages gets paid forward 3 months. It's like an automatic. It's not separate applications. So in the notes, they should explain what they're trying to accomplish. I think that sounds a little difficult to get all the parties on the same page, but it could be possible to do it. It just would take a lot more work. So we're not going, like the program is meant for arrearages and forward at one ask, not two asks. But I don't want to say no, because we would like to make those kind of things work. It's just an exception though.
Right. Is there a paper application that can be filled out and uploaded?
No, there is not. Everything is online.
So you can't go into the online system either and download and print them out?
Nope.
No, okay.
Nope. It's all secured. The whole point is that it's, secured. We have screenshots that we can share that are, I think they're actually uploaded by now to our website. So people can see what the screens look like so that they're prepared for what they will come across, but you can't print out and write. We don't want information on paper, for sure.
The electric, is that paid directly to the electric company, or is it paid to the landlord if electric is built into your rent? How does that work?
No, if the electricity is built into the rent, there is no separate payment for electricity. That would be a rent payment. And then for electric bills, they are sent directly to the electric company.
Okay. I'm not sure if anybody asked this, but since we're talking about electric payments, if somebody is on the LIHEAP program and they're already getting payments from that program to help pay their electric bill, how does that work?
There's no double subsidy on anything. So where does that subsidy come from? The LIHEAP, the subsidy you just talked about.
Yeah, that's a DSS program with federal funds.
So you can't do both.
Well, sometimes, I'm sorry.
No,
Sometimes people will receive assistance, like just saying, for instance, they have light and gas. They may be receiving that assistance towards their gas, still needing assistance for their electric. So they're going to be receiving assistance for their gas, if that's what they heat with, but may need assistance to pay off that electric bill. You know what I mean?
As long as the subsidy, there's no two subsidies coming together for rent or electricity, we're fine. If they had
so this could be an issue for people who heat with electric heat is my point.
Okay.
Right?
So if they have that subsidy because it's a heat subsidy and their housing is electric heat, that cannot happen on that one. No.
What? That could be a challenge. All right.
That's a no. That's a no. You know what I mean? And we would definitely, we would know, because the indicator would be, we would be seeing bills that were significantly higher for electric than what kind of is typical. So we would be like, and usually like on the bill, there's some kind of a notation too. So no double subsidies.
Gotcha. What are the timeframes on how long the process will take from starting the application to getting the payment to the landlord? What's your
That is a loaded question. So we really thought 10 days when we started this process, and we've been in it for longer than 10 days, and we're not funding one application yet. So the reason why is because what we're learning is the quality of the applications are not really what we had expected. And so from the time that an application is complete and vetted by the underwriting and the quality assurance, it's 5 days to payment. So that part of it is we know that for sure. The unknown is how the application gets submitted, how many times requests for additional information and clarification need to happen. So that is a loaded question. We're hoping to get that timeline really kind of tracked down once we've been doing this for, even a month. I imagine that we'll be able to reflect and say, what's the average? I think that right now it's just a lot of people who just kind of went in and said, let me see if I can get this money. And they didn't follow through with their documentation or the explanations that were needed. So hopefully it gets better and more determined. But right now it's not determined. It depends.
Gotcha. Just another question on the double subsidies. So if somebody is in subsidized housing, does that also count as a subsidy that then makes them not eligible for this program?
It depends on what kind of subsidized housing. So if it's a federal Section 8 voucher, they cannot double dip. If it's a rent controlled, like it's a state sponsored housing development, so the housing was put into it during development of those units, and that's why the rent is low, that's okay to help those households.
Hmm.
If they have a subsidy directly to their rent, we cannot help them. Does that help? Like, so all housing authorities, you know what I mean? That like you have a project-based Section 8, or you have a portable Section 8, you cannot double dip those.
Heidi, do you want to unmute yourself and just let us know if that answers your question?
Hi all, thanks Deb. Yeah, I'm comfortable with the answer. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Okay, great. Let's see. Oh, I think I might know the answer to this, but the question is, if somebody does not have computer access, can they call in and have like a CAA staff person complete the application for them and submit it
No.
on their behalf? Or
No, and that even just in practicality, they wouldn't be able to upload the documents. So a telephone call is not going to meet the needs of anyone supporting another person to help to write their application. That's where the HCAs come into play. And that's where it comes into play to think about like who in your circle is available to help you. So if it's a friend or a family, your employer, you know, whoever you have a good relationship with, that's where we're really going to meet the needs of those people who need extra help. The call in, like the call center, that's really for technical support. That's really for somebody who gets on a page and says, I don't understand like how to upload this document, or I'm uploading this is just a JPEG and it won't accept it, but it really does accept JPEGs. But you know, like those kind of tech questions. I've locked myself out. What's my password? You know, that type of thing. For people who need that assistance actually doing the application, they have to find another human to help them, to guide them through it, for sure.
So somebody could come in and have a face-to-face appointment with a staff person at a CAA and can complete the application together, but
Yes.
not necessarily by phone, because
You really can't. It's
yeah,
not
you
going to
need the
happen by phone. Yeah. You need the documents. So that's not going to, that'll be the stopping place on that.
All right. Can you elaborate more on when someone would qualify for future rent? As long as clients are impacted by COVID and below the AMI, they're eligible for future rent. How do we determine how many future months they're eligible for?
Okay, we're doing it in 3-month increments. So anybody who applies for arrearages, or they can apply for forward, you know, they can do either combination. If they apply for arrearages, we automatically are giving them 3 months forward. So as long as it's under the $10,000 cap, you know what I mean? Like that is a factor as well. But we're making the educated judgment that if they needed arrearages, they need a little forward too. And we're hoping that, you know, at that 3-month mark for recertification, if they come back for the recertification and we look and they need it 3 more, that's fine. But there's possibility that that's enough to get people back on track.
Great. And this program is for renters only, right? There's no help towards mortgage payments?
Correct. But there's a mortgage program over at CHAFA that people can look at for owner support. And there's talk, right, that there's more money coming. And so CHAFA is working really hard on trying to figure out what's coming possibly to the homeowners in Connecticut.
Great. Does anybody else want to unmute and ask questions?
I have a quick question. Going back to the Section 8. So the housing world, right? Rapid rehousing. So if you have someone who's in rapid rehousing, you know, they're responsible for their portion of their rent. Can they, if they're moving into a unit and they have a backed up utility bill, can they use the money to pay for the backed up utility bill so they can move into their new apartment?
Yeah, that's okay. That's totally separate. So rent is totally separate from utilities. They just wouldn't be able to get the subsidy for the rent because that's going to come from rapid rehousing. Yeah. I also, you know, bringing up rapid rehousing, thank you for that, because I think that it's important for all of us in the community who work directly with consumers to think about like that process of evaluating if that household needs more, like rapid rehousing or the prevention, the homeless prevention program. So there's other programs at the Department of Housing that could help those harder to serve families that really are not going to stabilize just because of getting the $10,000 contribution. So thank you for bringing that up too.
Just a point of clarification. When you say impacted by COVID, is there some type of documentation that has to be provided? Or is it just a matter of like, if you're in arrears, that is enough?
We're if you're in arrears, that's enough for us. There is certification when you submit that you have acknowledged that, yes, these are the criteria that has affected your house. So it's just,
Okay.
it's like a self-certification. They don't have to write a letter or anything like that.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. What other questions do people have? Oh, one thing is a few people have already indicated that they'd like to host the van.
Great.
How do they book that?
When I send the follow-up email today with all the marketing stuff, there's the Google link, so you can go on and sign up for it.
Perfect.
I have one question. For state moderate rental programs where clients have a base rent regardless of the income, so if they lose their job, they have zero income, they're
Mhm.
still required to pay
Mhm.
their rent, but they do receive a subsidy through the state for their rent. Does that qualify?
So that actually, let me go back to my notes on that one because we had talked about that the other day with the legal folks. So just a second, let me see if I can't touch that quickly. If not, you can email me and I can follow up on it. Because there are situations where the subsidy is attached to the building. That's what you're talking about, right?
Right. So with the Danbury Housing Authority, they have a rental program. And you do pay based off of your income. If you're working, your rent, you pay 30%. But
Yep.
if you're not working and you have zero income, there's a base rent that you're responsible for each month. So your
Yes.
rent isn't brought down to zero.
So for that, they could apply to UniteCT for that. Because that's on the building. So that one would work. So that's the state housing portfolio.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a
So-
question.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, this is Dana from New Opportunities. I just wanted to confirm that the people that we were talking about with undocumented, we were asking about those who are not U.S. citizens, if they're still eligible to apply, if they have no socials and no paperwork.
Again, you just reloaded the question. So it's not about the social. It's about their identity. They need to prove with a picture ID who they are. And then they need to have
Okay.
documentation that is, it can't be a slip of paper saying what their income is, right? It has to be a pay stub. It has to be that they have documentation to back up what they're saying.
Okay.
Now, the documentation, I would go online and look at the documentation. It's really nice and low barrier, but there's no guarantee. That's kind of a loaded question. I can't really give you a definite on because it's case by case.
But there's
Okay.
no
All
prohibition.
right. No, we just didn't know for sure if.
Right.
What was
Sorry,
that?
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't hear what you had said.
No, so there's no prohibition in the program up front
Right.
that if you're
Okay.
not a citizen or if you're not a legal resident, that you can't participate. It's really more about proving you are who you say you are and that you have this lease
Correct.
and the need.
Okay. So as long as they have like an ID or like a passport and then actual documented income.
Yep. And
Okay.
the lease agreement, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, the documents like that will
Mhm.
come, but yes, yeah. Like for the picture ID, it's like, it could be any picture ID. That's totally fine. I don't know if that's the hard part for people. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, for undocumented people, majority of the time they're getting paid like under the table. So it would depend. I don't know how.
yeah,
they'd be
that
able
won't
to
work.
Get actual documented income. Okay.
The one thing
All
though,
right, thank
that's
you.
why we have the partnership with Surrey. You know what I mean? So there's support
Mhm.
for them in a different way.
Okay.
John, you've mentioned that you have certain groups that are getting your marketing materials translated already into other languages. Would
Mhm.
you make those available as well? Or just so that like two different groups aren't getting the same document translated into Polish or into Mandarin or whatever?
So within Marina, who is the program manager here for UniteCT, she's doing the marketing. And I think that the flyers are all on the website and it's like whatever language, you know what I mean? Once it's done, it's shared. So I think
Oh,
that
good.
I think that if it's not there, I mean, because I know that one language I just saw flying around last night, you know what I mean? It's not instant for sure. But yeah, we're totally about being giving and transparent to let people fly and do their thing. So
Great.
I have a quick question.
sure.
So here's an example. You have someone that owes $7,000. They say their rent is $1,000 a month, and they have an arrearage of $7,000. How would the program itself address that? Will they pay $3,000 for the first 3 months? And how would that unfold?
Well, it really depends. I would have to say that if people are, that would be 7 months arrears, which falls into the March 2020 episode of COVID, right? So that part of it, that could work, that their situation is because of COVID. They have to have the partnership of the landlord agreeing, because we only would look at the 6 months arrearages, pay 85% of that amount to the landlord. The landlord commits to writing off 15% of that 6 month arrearages. And then that extra month, the landlord and the tenant, they discuss that. That's not outside of the program. So what we would hope is that there's a payment arrangement that's made or something so that everybody does the best they can, you know what I mean, to get onto a better foot. So even if it's, even if it's $10 a month or something, and just the faith of getting it paid off at some point. But that's up to the landlord to decide how they want to deal with it. I'm sorry?
Okay. So will that 85% be a one lump sum?
Yes. Yeah. All payments, the 85% and the 3 months forward, it's one sum payment up to $10,000. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we have time for probably one more question. Nobody ever wants to be last.
Well, if there's more questions too, you all will have my contact information, and the DOH-UniteCT@ct.gov email is also a place for you to submit questions about the program or technology questions, and just understand that there are hundreds coming in every day. So we kind of have put a disclosure to have reasonable expectations that it could be 48 to 72 hours before a response. And so I think that it's really helpful to set, I guess, the tone out in the community that this is a big undertaking, and that patience, is the most helpful thing right now, so that we can just keep trudging through.
Great. So I have recorded this presentation. I didn't start the recording right away, but about 3 or 4 minutes in, and we'll put that up on our YouTube page. And Dawn, you're going to send me this PowerPoint and maybe some other materials, and I'll get those out to all of the community action agencies.
Thank you so much. Thank you for spreading the word and everything. Yes, it's so helpful.
Great turnout. Thank you for so many people for sharing your time with us. And Dawn, thank you for all of your knowledge and expertise. And I am 100% sure we're going to be back in touch.
Yes.
So thanks again so much.
Okay. All right, you guys have a great day.